Hey, welcome everybody to Gather Veterans. Today I'm super excited to be interviewing owner of the franchise in Midland, Michigan, I believe, and Traverse City as well, and that's Rick Ohle. Hey Rick, welcome.
Hey, good afternoon. Good to see you.
Awesome. I am so excited to be able to have you on here. I know that you and I have talked personally before, and I just loved your story, so I'm excited to share that with other people. But I'm just going to dive right in and sort of pass the baton on to you and ask, where exactly are you located in Michigan? And tell us about your locations for Sport Clips.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I actually live in Midland, Michigan. Lived here for over 40 years now, from Chicago originally. But my three Sport Clips stores, there's the one in Traverse City, you mentioned, which is the first one we opened about 4 years ago. And then 1 month after that, believe it or not, it's kind of crazy, we opened a store in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And then only about a year ago now, we finally found one in Midland, our hometown. So we now have three stores in Traverse City, Mount Pleasant, and Midland.
So, just out of curiosity, what gave you that entrepreneurial bug in the first place? And then what was it about the Sport Clips franchise opportunity that really enticed you to dive in that?
Yeah. It's really interesting when I kind of reflect back on my career, which spent most of the time in healthcare for probably almost 30 years. I remember even going back to my graduation from college days where I thought I wanted to have my own business. And I've always been kind of a sports fanatic, so I thought my first dream was going to be to open up a sporting goods store, believe it or not, going back a long time ago now, right? That never happened for a whole variety of reasons. So I've maintained that sports interest throughout my life, and I've probably maintained that interest in being a business owner, but my career took me other places. And so I was a hospital administrator for, like I said, almost 30 years, and I worked in a large corporation before that, but never really had the opportunity to kind of get into that small business world. And so I retired 4 or 5 years ago from healthcare. And I knew that my personality is such and my energy level is such where I can't just stop and do nothing. People that retire and then just kind of do nothing all day, I can't do that. It's not my makeup, right? And so I knew I wanted to do something else that would be kind of challenging for me and be productive and give me some fun, give me some flexibility, some variety. Finance is of course important, but that was one of many things I was looking for in my kind of next phase of my professional life, if you will, kind of a transition to retirement a little bit. And I knew I didn't want to consult. I've done a little bit of consulting in healthcare, but I knew that wasn't kind of in the cards for me full time. And so I proceeded to look at small business opportunities and got into the franchise world and pursued and investigated a lot of different franchises because there's a lot of them out there, right? And I think one of the things that was kind of just ironic for me is that for as little hair as I now have, I still was going to the barber and getting my hair cut. And several years ago, after my barber of 30 years retired, I kind of like, where do I go now for the few hairs that I have cut on my hair? And so I would just kind of go wherever just to get my hair cut, right, where I can get in the fastest. And as I was pursuing other franchise opportunities, and I was hearing advertisements on the radio, I'm kind of an ESPN nut, so I listen to ESPN a lot on the radio when I'm in the car or watch when I'm home on TV. I would hear Sport Clips be advertised. And I would think, God, that would be great if there was one in Midland, right? That's the kind of place I'd like to go to where it's all about sports playing on big flat screen TVs all day long, not a traditional women's salon environment kind of thing. So that'd be perfect for me, right? Well, we didn't have one around here. And so as I'm looking for franchise ideas, and I actually went to the International Franchise Expo in New York City many, many years ago. I heard this advertiser of Sport Clips, and I'm going to pursue them. And so I got on. I started a dialogue with Sport Clips haircuts. I probably spent 9 or 10 months doing my kind of due diligence kind of thing, evaluation of them compared to other franchise opportunities. And I traveled around the state. There was like, at the time, maybe 12 or 13 Sport Clips haircut stores in Michigan, all throughout Grand Rapids, down Detroit area, Kalamazoo. And I drove down and I experienced the product and the service myself. And I met all the team leaders. All of us that own stores are called team leaders, or all kind of sports terminology. And I spent a lot of time with every team leader learning about the franchise and their experience. And they're great people. A lot of teamwork in this franchise, which I really love. It's really important to me. Went down and met the executive team in Texas, where Sport Clips headquarters are, Georgetown, Texas. Really enjoyed the founder and the owner. He still runs Sport Clips. Gordon Logan is his name. He's actually a veteran, actually an Air Force veteran. met the executive team, researched the history of Sport Clips. They've been doing this for 25, 30 years now. One of the fastest growing men haircutting places in the country. I love the business model. I especially love the values and the mission. I'm kind of a values-driven kind of person, mission-driven. And they have a very strong mission and values, including their support for veterans, which is one of those things that's important to me. And the business model was good. And I love the sports connection. So for all those reasons, I decided amongst all the other franchise ideas that were out there, Sport Clips, I kept coming back to Sport Clips as saying, this is the best fit for me because I was passionate about sports. I'm passionate about the product and the service. I love the values and the mission. It was a good fit. It was just a good fit and an opportunity to be successful and hire good people to run the stores. And, that's pretty much it. The passion is really important to me. And something that I'm passionate about. And I love the product and the service myself. And I love what the company stands for. And so for all those reasons, I decided that was the match for me.
I know my son and my husband are huge sports fanatics, and they absolutely love to go to some place. My husband actually has pretty long hair right now and a pretty full beard, so he doesn't go as often as my son. Yeah. But my son, he totally geeks out every time he goes to Sport Clips because he loves
That's
the
awesome.
sports.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah, kids really love our experience. They really do.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I love it. I love the fact that the values that you talked about with that franchise. I know that some franchises over the years have proven not to be opportunities of integrity. Obviously, they're not around anymore. So that's really cool.
Right.
I'm excited to have Sport Clips as part of our sponsor team, to use your terminology, for Gather Veterans. One of the things that I would love for you to share with me is what are some of the things that have been born out of that veteran experience that the owner has that has influenced the Sport Clips models and how you guys are giving back to the veteran community?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing, Hannah, is there's a program that's been going on for many, many years now that's nationwide. It's called Help a Hero. And every Sport Clips store across the country, and there's about, I think, 1,850 now stores across the country and Canada that do this. And so from like mid-October until Veterans Day, all the stores, including my 3 stores, we've been very actively involved in this. We raise money for veterans. And it's done in partnership with the VFW. And the VFW actually administers the program. Many years ago, the fundraising really supported a program called Operation Uplink, which is a program that allowed deployed men and women across the world to be able to call back home for free. That's originally where all the money went to. And of course, things changed with cell phones and not as many people deployed, and our fundraising, increased dramatically. And so 6-7 years ago, the fund started going towards a scholarship program. So now Help a Hero supports scholarships for veterans and active military across the country. And I don't remember the exact number, but I think it's in the neighborhood of about $7 to $8 million now has been raised over the last several years for veterans. And so what happens is that during that month-long period right before Veterans Day, as clients come into our store, we ask them to donate money for Help a Hero. It's completely voluntary. So when they check out, we give them an option if they want to donate any money. In addition to that, though, if our stylists want to donate money, I personally match that money. And then on Veterans Day, we actually do free haircuts for veterans all day long. And every haircut we do that day, we as a store will donate $1 back as well to Help a Hero. So all that money gets accumulated throughout all the stores nationwide. And Gordon Logan, our CEO and founder, the Air Force veteran, he presents a check to the VFW. They administer the program. And so I forget the number, but let's say 500 or 600 scholarships have been awarded over the years to veterans that meet certain criteria. That's all administered by the VFW. Sport Clips raises the money. We turn it over to the VFW. They administer the program. So that's the biggest thing that Sport Clips does. It's a lot of fun. We've raised over $7,000 in our Traverse City store alone over the last several years. So it's really kind of a fun event. Veterans Day is a special day because we offer food and beverage for our veterans. And like I say, we give them free haircuts, and they appreciate it a lot. It's really good for our teams to understand the value of that. And it's just one of those values that Sport Clips has that kind of, attracted me to Sport Clips, quite frankly, because I'm a big believer in giving back to the community. I've always been very involved in the community. And one of the benefits of being a small business owner is you now have a different venue to be able to give back to the community. And so we've done that in a lot of different ways over the last several years in all of our stores.
That's awesome.
There's another program that I have personally not participated in that Sport Clips is a heavy sponsor of, and it's called Ageless Aviation. And it's a way for those veterans who perhaps were military pilots back in the 40s and the 50s, World War II kind of vintage. Many of them are in senior living situations right now. And it's a way for us to give them opportunity to go back into the same kind of airplane they were trained on back in the 40s, 30s, and the 40s, and have another flight, actually. And it's a wonderful thing. I imagine I'm looking, but I've never seen one in person myself, and I'm kind of looking forward to the day we do that. So Ageless Aviation, there's a foundation for that, and Sport Clips is a heavy sponsor of that. So you've got, these men and women, mostly men probably from World War II, who maybe flew at one time in the military. They have a chance to go back now, and obviously they're much older, and maybe their last chance to be in a plane and kind of reminisce back and remember what it was like to be an aviator back in World War II. So that's kind of another cool thing that Sport Clips does for veterans.
Oh my gosh, that's totally cool. I love that. I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
I can just
cool.
imagine the look on those people's faces when they get to experience that again. That must be amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, tell me, you said something that was interesting to me, and that is that the passion for veterans was one of the things that drew you to Sport Clips.
Mm-hmm.
So just from a personal standpoint, what is it about that veteran community and demographic that you wanted to actually be a part of supporting?
I'm not a veteran myself. My father served in the Navy in World War II, and my brother went to Vietnam. And I think I've always kind of put them at the top of the list in terms of our heroes. When you think about the sacrifice men and women make these days on behalf of the country, I can't think of anything more special and more valuable to doing that. And I remember back, when I was growing up in the 60s and the 70s, and that was all the Vietnam era. I don't think we as a country appreciated our veterans. I don't think they got the right kind of respect for what they did. Just times were turbulent, right? Now it's different, which makes me so happy. And the fact that we respect them and we honor them and we celebrate them. And I'm a sponsor we have a minor league baseball team here in Midland called Great Lakes Loons. And I sponsor the Veteran of the Game program for them. So 15, 20 games a year, they introduce a veteran, at midfield, standing ovation as they deserve, right? And we honor them. And actually, this year we're going to be sponsoring, in addition to the Veteran of the Game, it's called Hometown Hero, where young men and women who are just enlisted, getting ready to go and serve their time, are going to be honored as well. And just like we want to honor all the healthcare workers now and the first responders, I think it's so wonderful to honor these people that have, in many cases, given the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of the country. And I'm just, there's just something about it that says there's nothing better than that to thank these people. And I think that's the connection. I've known several people who've served in the military, and these are just wonderful people. And I don't think we can ever give them enough appreciation of what they've done on behalf of their country. So I think that's the connection, and the fact that Sport Clips places as such an important value of what they do. I'm all about giving back, and there's a lot of people that you want to give back to. Right now, when we open our store, we're going to give back to healthcare providers, right, and first responders. I don't know, it's just something that I think is the right thing to do. And Sport Clips, part of their values is they literally say, do what's right, do your best, and treat others the way they'd want to be treated. Those are kind of the inherent values of Sport Clips, which we try to instill in all of our teams. And this is at the top of the list as far as I'm concerned. So that's pretty much, I think, the reason, Hannah.
I remember the first time you and I met and we had a chat, I was really impressed with how committed to community that you were. And it made me just really glad that we had you as one of our sponsoring businesses for Gather Veterans. So a question that I have for you is, so many of the things that you've shared made it clear to me why Sport Clips was a great fit for us in terms of having you as an advertising partner. And, any of the magazines that I've owned over the years, one of the things that I think makes me different is I don't take just anybody just because they've got money to spend. I really want to find people that are actually committed to the community that we're serving with our products, and they're passionate about that. What was it about Gather Veterans that made it interesting to you and someplace that you actually wanted to invest your advertising dollars?
Well, I think primarily you were reaching an audience that's really important to me,
Yeah.
right? And we offer a 20% discount to all veterans and active military, every day of the year. And I think that when we got involved with Help a Hero, in all of our communities that we're in, but starting with Traverse City, quite frankly, I made it a point to get out and go to the American Legion and go to the VFW and go to the recruiting stations and go to the Veterans Coalition meetings, in Traverse City. And these are just wonderful people. I mean, I don't know how to say, they're just wonderful people, right? And so it was another way for me to kind of reach that audience that's really important to us. I mean, I want them to come in and get their free haircuts, and I want them to get their discount, but I want them to know that we're there supporting them every day of the year as well. And your publication was very targeted towards an audience that's very important to us, right? And so it was kind of a no-brainer, to be honest with you. I was kind of thrilled. I wish there was publications similar to that in other parts of the state, which hopefully maybe you're going to get to soon, which should be great. And I'll certainly want to participate in those as well. So yeah, anytime you can get in front of an audience that deserves a thank you, I think is a good thing, right? You can't say thank you enough. So
yeah, especially like you said, to that demographic of people. There are so many of them that are just now getting that much deserved thank you for your service.
Yeah,
and it is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. You had mentioned a couple people in your own family who have served. One of the interesting things that I've run into is there are a lot of veterans out there that have amazing stories to share, and yet nobody's asked the details. Nobody's recorded them. I've talked with people who have had veterans in their family who have since passed away. I know my great-grandfather was a veteran, and it would have been so amazing had somebody actually recorded his stories. I'm blessed to have the love letters that are back and forth between he and my great-grandmother. And it's kind of interesting because they share the same wedding anniversary that my husband and I have. So that's fun.
Oh, that's neat.
But have you ever had an opportunity to sit with those members of your family and hear their story?
My father passed away several years ago, but I did that with him. And he was more in the medical field. He was a medic, actually, in the war. So I did hear some of those stories with him as well. And I think it was kind of interesting because when my brother went to Vietnam, and that was a very different era, obviously. And I think my dad was so incredibly proud of him for doing that. And yet, as it's true for, I think, a lot of people that served in that time, when my brother came back, I don't want to say he was a different person, but there's obviously a lot of things he saw and experienced that he didn't want to talk about. He didn't want to share. He kind of buried them a little bit. And we never could get those out of him per se, which we respect a little bit. A little bit different than my dad's experience, and I remember, as we talked about the wonderful generation of the people that served in World War II, I don't think we treated the people that served in the Vietnam era the same way. And I felt just incredibly bad for that, right? As a country, we just didn't embrace them like we do now, thank goodness, and like we did for the people back then. So I had another kind of distant relative. My favorite uncle also had a nephew on the other side of his family who served in the Marines and served in Vietnam and Japan and served at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and what have you. And I got to know him quite a bit too as I was growing up and went to visit him a little bit. And he had some really interesting stories too based on his experience. But it just seemed in general that group of people weren't as openly talking about their experiences as perhaps some of the World War II oriented veterans did and stuff. But I think you're exactly right. I think there's so many great stories to be shared now with the younger generation. I wish there was more opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
One of the things I just have to tell you that was so touching, because as we do these things as business owners, we're kind of role models and setting examples for those people that work for us, right? And I have a lot of younger people, obviously they're mostly in their 20s, that work in our stores, with one exception, they're all females in our case. And by giving back to the community, and I donate a lot to Big Brothers Big Sisters as well as part of our store, as well as the Help of Heroes. You're kind of sending some messages to your employees as well, how important it is to give back to the community. And I remember, because they've embraced the Help a Hero thing now, because they know how important it is to do it. It's very meaningful to them as well. And I remember a year ago up in Traverse City, without us even knowing about it, several veterans on Veterans Day, they were making the rounds. They were going to businesses to say thank you. And we had several veterans that came to our store. I wasn't there that day, came to our store, and they had a couple flags. They had a certificate as a thank you to our sports club store in Traverse City for supporting them, Help of Heroes. And I still hear my team members talk about that experience, how touching it was for that 10 or 15 minutes for those veterans to come into our store to say thank you to our young employees for what we did. It was amazing. I was so impressed that they chose to do that. And it was so meaningful for our employees to see that firsthand and to hear that thank you from these older, mostly gentlemen, for saying thank you for what you're doing to help us. It was really kind of cool, really neat. So there's a lot of things we can learn from them and benefit from them. It's not just giving them, they still give a lot back to us, right? So.
Yes, definitely. You know, an interesting thing that has sort of hit me is I have a nephew. I actually have two nephews. They're twins. They both served in the Marines. They both served multiple tours in Afghanistan. And, you know, they're in their early 30s. I think people forget that we're actually in wartime.
Yeah.
We're in an active wartime, and we have active military that are in combat zones. We have young men that are coming back. Now, the percentage of people coming back from war is down compared to World War II, World War I, those, you know, Vietnam, those larger conflicts. But do you see a lot of younger veterans taking advantage and coming in, or is it mostly the older veterans? I know that for me, I was talking with my sister because my nephew ended up in the hospital. Anybody that was on my Facebook saw that. And we think maybe it actually might have been this COVID-19 because he was so sick. He really almost died. Mm-hmm. And it was really unfortunate because he had no concept, which is one of the passions that we at Gather Veterans have, and that is to disseminate information out there. What are the different benefits and legislation that's happening, and even local businesses in their community across the state of Michigan that are offering things to veterans. But I find that those younger veterans don't seem to even connect with that. Do you find younger veterans taking advantage of it, or is it mostly the older ones?
Yeah, I think it's probably more the older ones. You know, I was kind of interested when I've gone around the last couple of years and met with people at the VFW or the American Legion to talk about our Help a Hero program. One of the things they kind of conveyed to me is how hard it is for them to get the younger veterans to participate in those kind of organizations, that apparently they view it more for the older veterans and not necessarily for them. And so I heard that. I didn't realize that before. And they're trying very hard to get the younger ones involved. And maybe it's just a different generation. I'm not sure what it was, but, you know, and obviously, especially the World War II veterans, there's not many of them left anymore, right? And so those organizations that have been highly dependent upon the older veterans, they're hurting a little bit because the younger veterans aren't as inclined to participate, either because they're very busy, they're working full time, they don't have time for it, or they think those organizations are more for older veterans. I'm not sure why that is, but I think that they've been struggling to do that, and maybe it's just a generational thing. I'm not sure. We certainly have a lot of younger veterans that come into our store, and in Traverse City, there's a Coast Guard base there. So we take care of a lot of them, which is awesome, which is great. And, you know, when we first opened up, I went to the Coast Guard base. I met with the commander then. He gave me a tour. I was so in awe. I was so impressed with everything they did. And obviously, I offered them free haircuts at the time and those kind of things. And we still want to do that as well. And, you know, in Mount Pleasant, we have Central Michigan University. And so during Help a Hero time, I go on campus and I meet, you know, they have veterans organizations on campus as well. And I make them aware of all of our services and get a chance to meet several of them. And we get quite a few that come in that are veterans and are going in university setting and stuff. But it's just a little bit different. It just is than the older generation of veterans is my sense.
Well, I'm super happy to hear that younger veteran demographic is on your radar.
Yep.
And I'm so in awe of what these men and women have done for us. Obviously, my passion is born out of not only a deep patriotism in my own heart. I have lots of veterans in my family for many generations. My father also served in the Navy as well. So yeah, I just am so appreciative of business owners like you that not only have that passion for veterans, but you're actually willing to invest dollars in helping to not only reach them through the magazine, but provide a platform that is going to educate them, inspire them, and encourage them in bringing them together to this one particular source that they can get a lot of information out to. So,
Yeah.
hey, if somebody is interested in maybe reaching out to you, or they want to find out information about this Heroes program, how would they do that, Rick?
I'm happy to give you my email address if you'd
Go
like.
for it.
It's rickohle11, RICKOHLE11 at gmail.com. Be happy to talk to anybody. And every now and then I have people reach out to me, which is awesome because I'm happy to talk to anybody, and especially for a cause as wonderful as this. I've gotten connected with some other veterans-related organizations over the years. People reached out. I'm happy to talk to them. Sometimes there's fundraising races and those kind of things. I'm happy to participate in the extent we can through sponsorships of any sort. So be happy to talk to anybody. Absolutely.
Well, I just want to tell you thank you again for serving the veteran community the way that you are. I know you gave me a pack of free coupons to hand out to Commander Webb when I was talking with him and interviewing him for the magazine.
Good.
Thank you for taking the time today to share your passion, to share what it is that you're doing for them. And thank you again for sponsoring Gather Veterans. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for what you do, Hannah. What you're doing is really, really special. I'm happy to participate.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.